Spa-Francorchamps time, ladies and gentlemen. The Retro Racing Managers League is about to get underway once again as we come to the beautiful Ardennes Forest. It is a wonderful race ahead of us, the Belgian Grand Prix of 1990. Jake Sanson here, bringing you all of the action as it happens from the Retro Racing Managers League commentary box. Obviously, it is the pre-qualifying race first of all, the Go Bobby.UK Cup winner. We've had a fantastic opportunity to witness the drivers in action last time out at the Birmingham Super Prix when Eric Bernard brought the Monteverde home for a fabulous victory. There have been some great races through the weeks. Pierluigi Martini for the Minardi team has won twice at Phoenix and at the Mexico City Grand Prix at Hermanos Rodriguez. A win for Ukyo Katayama at Interlagos in the Coloni. A double victory for Bruno Giacomelli in the Lola in Imola and Monaco, followed and backed up by his Japanese teammate at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Canada a few weeks after that. A double win for Joachim Winkelhock in the Zach Speed at Paul Ricard and Silverstone. Paul Warwick got the job done at Hockenheim for the Porsche team, and of course last time out at the Hungaroring it was Damon Hill who brought the Converse Dallara through to the victory, and fair play to him, he's put them right back at the front in pole position for this Go Bobby.UK Cup race. 22 laps around the Spa-Francorchamps circuit, one mandatory pit stop, and as always the first three teams past the post are the ones that progress through to the 1990 Belgian Grand Prix. It's an all Converse Dallara front row, Damon Hill and Johnny Herbert together on that front row of the grid. Then it is Michael Schumacher and Ukyo Katayama collectively in the Reynard and the Coloni that run on the second row of the grid. Bruno Giacomelli is fifth position on the grid in the Lola alongside his teammate Aguri Suzuki. Bertrand Gachot in the Coloni is alongside the Monteverde of JJ Leto. Their car, the leading one, is only 8th today. Marc Blundell in the Lego Acela is alongside the Porsche of Paul Warwick. And then Martin Brundle and Pierluigi Martini in the two Minardis are together on row 6. Row 7, it's Piercarlo Ghinzani in the Zach Speed alongside Eric Bernard, the man who won at the Birmingham Super Prix. Paul Tracy in the Porsche is alongside the Reynard of Roland Ratzenberger. Then it's Alessandro Zanardi in the Lego Acela beside Joachim Winkelhock in the Zach Speed. Martin Donnelly in the Eurobrun alongside the Real of Willie T. Ribbs. Then it is Juan Fangio the second alongside Eddie Irvine. Christian Fittipaldi and Alan McNish in the two Lifes are next up. And then it's the two AGS cars of Gabriele Tarquini and the man who didn't quite make it into the shot there, Roberto Guerrero, the Colombian. So as always, 22 laps of the circuit. It's going to be very intense and exciting to see who's going to make the best of it here. And obviously everybody wanting to do the best that they possibly can ahead of the races. We're going to see some great battles. Here we go. And it's the Spa-Francorchamps, 22 laps around the circuit. Go Bobby.UK Cup begins. So down to the first corner. So far a perfect textbook start for Damon Hill, as he has plenty of time to do everything he needs to. You can see that there's been some rain down on the circuit. So it's very similar conditions to what we saw at the Hungaroring. Johnny Herbert just taken to the grass there on the exit. So the battle is going to be an interesting one as he tries to fight after his teammate. They didn't have a very competitive time at the Birmingham Super Prix, the non-championship race between F1 races. And now here they are together at the front of the field. Katayama and Suzuki, the two Japanese drivers that will be at Honda next year. They've made a great start, 3rd and 4th place, ahead of Michael Schumacher in the Reynard as they come up towards Les Combes for the first time. And Damon Hill just trying to tiptoe his way through. You can see that the circuit is very greasy and very slippery in the early stages of racing, and they're on the slick tyres. So this is going to be a very interesting challenge for the drivers as they try and get heat into the tyres around the circuit as quickly as humanly possible. But the Dallaras are in front, no major shocks for Damon Hill and Johnny Herbert on this first lap. But up to third has come Katayama in the Coloni and Aguri Suzuki in the Lola Renault, doing a fantastic job. They'll have Ferrari engines next year and a brand new lineup too. And Damon Hill, of course, is riding the crest of the wave at the moment because he's very much confirmed as being part of the BMW factory effort next year. Katayama making the bid on the inside of Johnny Herbert on the opening lap, but he can't make it stick. He has to back out of it through Le Fagna. And he now comes up towards Blanchimont, which is going to be the very fast corner on the far side of the circuit. Damon Hill just tiptoeing his way through. Herbert, Katayama, Michael Schumacher giving pressure to Aguri Suzuki. Giacomelli's got well clear of JJ Leto and Paul Warwick. And then it's Gachot and Blundell. Here is Gachot making the bid on the Porsche of Paul Warwick, trying to go right round the outside. This is going to be brave from Gachot if he can hold it, but he knows this place very well. Gachot still holds himself around the outside. What a move from Bertrand Gachot. Absolutely brilliant as he holds it around the outside and keeps the car very much firmly planted. Absolutely sensational from the Coloni. Damon Hill comes through. 2 minutes and 9.5 seconds. So that shows you the length of the lap here. And also how difficult it's going to be to get these cars to a decent position and setup in these tricky conditions. So Hill, Herbert, Katayama, Suzuki, Schumacher, Giacomelli, Leto, Gasho, Warwick and Blundell. And that's a problem for Willie T. Ribbs. He's run wide there at the first hairpin. He gets back going again. Oh, right into the path of one of the lives. I think that was Alan McNish he got right in front of there. It is indeed, because Fittipaldi has fallen into the clutches of Roberto Guerrero's AGS, and Tarquini in the other car is trying to come forward. So there is Willie T. Ribbs, the American, having a reasonable mid-season. He's not had it all his own way. Oh, we've got a car off the circuit, and that's JJ Leto. He spun in the Real. So let's see what happened. Oh, he's lost it on the way through. Goodness me, that's a scary place to go off. He's very lucky, actually, that he can still keep the car moving. The engine is still going, you can hear it. But I'm afraid JJ Leto in the Monteverde has well and truly binned his car, and he has to wait for Gabriele Tarquini to go through, and he nearly spins it trying to recover the car. So a big moment there for JJ Leto in the in the Monteverde, I should say, as Katayama continues to put pressure on Johnny Herbert in the Converse Dallara, as he wants to move his way further forward. So the battle continuing on its way. A good march forward through the field. But it is going to be very, very tight and twisty up at the sharp end of the field. We know that everybody's going to be working hard, and Gasho's lost it! Gasho has lost it! Having started the race so brilliantly, Bertrand Gasho loses the car on the way to Pouhon. So let's see Gasho losing it again on the replay. He's just come through the first corner. The back end's just overtaken the front. There's nothing he can do into the gravel trap, and he's damaged the front wing. So it's a very difficult problem for the Coloni driver. And Bertrand Gasho, I'm afraid the Belgian, has binned it on his own. And he's gone a very long way into the gravel trap. It would not surprise me at all if he was done for the day. He is trying to get going again. I suppose with the argument, you never know what's going to happen in a race like this. So Gasho does get going again. Fair play, well recovered from the Coloni, but that's now Leto and Gasho who have binned it. It's still very greasy conditions out there. It's not easy to keep this car on the straight and narrow. A lot of horsepower and a lot of grip in the dry, but in the wet, the wheel spin is just astronomical in places as Blundell makes his bid on the inside of Warwick. And both drivers are not able to concede the corner, and they both go up in the air. Oh, and Blundell comes on the circuit right in front of Piercarlo Ghinzani, who has to make his way to the pits. That was a big incident. Let's have a look again. We're on board with Bernard. He can see it all play out. Neither driver is prepared to yield. Both drivers go off, and then Ghinzani has nowhere to go. I want to see it again from Piercarlo Ghinzani's point of view, because he was trying to stay out of harm's way. He comes through the flat-out left-hander, and now down to the chicane. The incident's already started. Blundell, he's just got nowhere to go. Poor Piercarlo Ghinzani has absolutely no chance of recovery, and Blundell is now stuck on the curbs, trying to get himself going again. But Paul Warwick has lost a couple of places. Blundell has lost a heck of a lot more than that, as likewise has Piercarlo Ghinzani, who's got a damaged front end. So at the end of lap 2, a couple of big incidents there as Gasho's gone off, and then Blundell and Warwick have failed to yield for each other and caused another big incident. That's Guerrero going wide at the first hairpin. So greasy, slippery conditions aplenty here, and that's definitely making things very awkward for the drivers. As you can see the grey clouds overhead, there's been rain in the area all weekend, but it's not actually raining at this moment, but it is, as you can see, very slippery conditions. So the drivers are desperately trying to find grip on a circuit that is infamous for catching drivers out. Damon Hill leads the race then, and Zanardi's locking up. Just about manages to save it, but he's got big pressure from Willie T. Ribbs in the Real, who's trying to make his own bid to move forward. Oh, and that's one of the lights going off in the background. That is Christian Fittipaldi. So Fittipaldi overshoots and goes off. Very tricky, so the drivers are obviously having to learn as they go. But the grip is very tough to find out here. Hill and Herbert have stretched out a decent margin, though. Look at that. 4.6 seconds clear of Aguri Suzuki. Blundell has caught the back of the field, but he almost goes off there as he drops down the hill through the corner with no name and up towards Pouhon once again. But Marc Blundell is trying to recover after his early spin on a circuit which is struggling to afford anybody any grip at the moment. So the two Converse Stellaras lead the way. Damon Hill in front of Johnny Herbert. Herbert staying on with the team for next year. Michael Schumacher there under pressure. And that's Tarquini! Tarquini's gone off and he's lost the wheel. Well, that's a big moment for Tarquini. I'm afraid his race is over. Let's watch again as he just drops it. I think he's just carried far too much speed into the corner. Bang, the wheel comes off the car and Tarquini loses it. He looks okay to me. He's out of the car pretty quickly. But I think Gabriele Tarquini has definitely got a bit of a headache now to last him a fortnight. And, well, that is a shame. From his point of view, it's game over. Damon Hill still leads. And so now we've got a couple of retirements. Sorry, just the one retirement. Gabriele Tarquini out of the race. Gasho spinning off but recovering. And then obviously having to make a pit stop to repair his car. You're not going to see much of him in this race now, as Giacomelli is under pressure from Ratzenberger. Ratzenberger's going to try and put himself up the inside line. A much better showing from the Austrian, actually, this time out here at Spa, as Ratzenberger is a lot closer to Schumacher than the drivers in the top 6 would have him. So Hill and Herbert, 3.4 seconds away. The Dallara really seems to suit this circuit, as Zanardi is now going wheel-to-wheel again with Willie T. Ribbs. And they're going to go down the straight together here as they come up towards Les Combes. So let's see if they're going to have an opportunity. Well, Johnny Herbert is the man we're watching now. It looked as though that battle was pretty much diffused. And here's Warwick on the inside of Ratzenberger. That's for P8. And Ratzenberger has to yield as Paul Warwick puts the car very firmly on the inside apex. No problem at all there. And a great opportunity to make the move is successfully completed. But meanwhile, we've got Aguri Suzuki, the Japanese driver, in front of his countryman Ukyo Katayama as they run in 3rd and 4th place. 4 seconds ahead of the Reynard of Michael Schumacher, who again is running in the top 5. Having a spirited and solid race. He made a big mistake in Hungary. At Birmingham, last time out in the Super Prix, he kept himself very much to himself and didn't overdrive the car. He brought it home in 2nd place. So Reynard are hoping for their first qualification for a Grand Prix. And that was... Oh, that's Guerrero! Just as his teammate went off. Unbelievable. So both Guerrero and Tarquini have lost the AGSs and spun off within 5 laps of the race getting underway. He goes off on lap 4. And that is absolutely appalling. Both of the AGSs spinning off. There must be something fundamentally wrong with the grip of the car. And they must be kind of relieved in a way that Holden are coming on board to give them some factory backing for 1991. But that really has summed up the AGS team season. Both Guerrero and Tarquini going off and into the barriers. And now Gasho! Gasho, there must be oil down there. There must be oil down at that part of the circuit. Gasho is able to stop the car from spinning into the barriers. He just about slows it down enough to get going again. But Gasho now returns to the circuit. And there's definitely reduced grip at some point on the circuit. I don't know whether that's to do with a mechanical problem that someone is having or whether that's just a very vulnerable part of the circuit for grip, but certainly we've got a lot of cars going off. And here at Spa-Francorchamps, we're definitely having a very tricky day at the office for grip. But Damon Hill still leads. Herbert 2nd, then Suzuki, Katayama, Schumacher, Bernard, Giacomelli, Warwick, Ratzenberger and Martini in front of his teammate Martin Brundle in the other Minardi. So the battle continues, but everybody really struggling to keep the car on the road here in very greasy, very tricky conditions. This is kind of the impossible conditions for a race driver, really. It's not wet, it's not dry, but it is flirting in between. And that's Irvine going off. Eddie Irvine's gone off. Now, let's see what happened there. He's having a terrific battle on the way up to Les Combes. Makes the move on Ghinzani. It doesn't work. He overshoots, gets on the curb, and gets nudged a little by Blundell. That's more Blundell not really having anywhere to go, rather than maliciously putting Eddie Irvine off the road. But the end result is the same for Irvine. He goes off, rejoins. So there is Zanardi in the Lego Osella. Running in 15th place at the moment, trying to close up on Juan Fangio II, who is actually having a great race in the Eurobrun. Much better job from the Argentine this time, as he runs closer to the midfield. His teammate Donnelly is not having a lot of fun, and Katayama's got past Suzuki, and that's why Suzuki's got a gearbox failure. Gearbox failure again in the Lola. They've not had the best of times of it of late, and Aguri Suzuki pulls off on the run to the bus stop chicane. So I'm afraid that's one Lola out of the race. Neither car made it to the finish at the last one. Oh, Gasho's gone off. Gasho's had another spin by the look of it. Yep, he's gone off, and this time he has broken the rear wheel. So Bertrand Gachot, 3 crashes over the course of this race, and now out of the race completely in the Coloni. So the home favourite in the GoBobby.UK Cup is not going to get to the finish. But Damon Hill still leads, keeping it nice and comfortable at the front of the field in the Converse Dallara. Really loving these conditions. They certainly seem to suit him and his teammate Johnny Herbert very well indeed. And they are very strong in these conditions. So Damon Hill continues to lead ahead of Herbert. Katayama is now 3rd ahead of Bernard, Giacomelli, Schumacher, Warwick, Ratzenberger, Martini and Brundle. And then Paul Tracy in the second Porsche ahead of Joachim Winkelhock in the Zach Speed. Fangio and Donnelly are split by Zanardi. The two Eurobruns there sandwiched by the Lego Ocella. Willie T. Ribbs, 16th place. And then McNish, Ginzani and Fittipaldi. What's happened to Fittipaldi down the order? Has there been an overtake? Yep, Ginzani's got through. Past Christian Fittipaldi, the nephew of the two-time world champion Emerson Fittipaldi. And it looks as though they're having a terrific battle. Let's see if we can pick it up. Fittipaldi swarming around all over the back of the Zach Speed with the Yamaha engines. Can Fittipaldi make the move? No, he's not going to get there in the life, so he has to back out of it. But Damon Hill continues to lead the charge. 5 seconds clear of teammate Johnny Herbert. No wonder BMW have picked this man up for 1991. He never had a massive amount of luck in Formula 3000, but in Formula 1, he's certainly showing that the apple doesn't fall very far from the tree. As Leto goes off again. And that is the second time. He just overshoots. There's very reduced grip at that hairpin. And Leto is going off, so this is going to be a bit of a lottery, this one, by the look of it. As several of the drivers that we thought were going to be able to handle things pretty smartish are actually really struggling for grip. So here's Giacomelli with Schumacher all over the back of him. And Schumacher's had to lock up and let him go. So now Giacomelli is thundering after Eric Bernard, who didn't get the best of qualifying positions, but he's really starting to fight his way through the field now. And that's Zanardi. Oh, Alessandro Zanardi fails to come out. And Donnelly, what a save from Martin Donnelly. That's full lock stops. Let's look at this again, because that is as sideways as you can get a Formula 1 car without spinning it off the road. This is an amazing bit of car control from Martin Donnelly. Watch as he breaks into the chicane, clips the curb, back end comes out. An amazing save from Martin Donnelly. That is as close to a chuck it away into the rubbish tip as it's possible to get. And Martin Donnelly proving his worth there. He's not always had his best. Now Damon Hill has had a problem of some kind. It looks like Damon Hill has lost a significant quantity of pace and speed. I'm not sure where he's made the mistake, but I think he must have overshot at the first corner, because now Martin Donnelly... Oh no, it must have been a mistake at the end of the lap, because they're coming towards the end of the first sector, and Damon Hill is now only half a second ahead of Herbert, so Hill must have made a mistake somewhere. And now Johnny Herbert is right behind his teammate. So even the race leader is not immune to problems. And Damon Hill is trying to keep that car on a straight line. This is going to be an absolute thriller of a Grand Prix later on if these cars are struggling to keep their grip, as Blundell gets the run on Fittipaldi to the inside line. And now Tracy in the Porsche. Oh, he loses it completely. Now, is that car going to be able to get going again? Because it's in a dangerous position. But this is the first of many problems as Paul Tracy falls foul of a wet Spa. Now, he's on the grass here, going the wrong way to try and spin turn the car, so that's legal. He's on the grass, he's out of harm's way. It's when you try and drive the wrong way around the circuit to try and spin turn the car, that's when it's not legal, so that's perfectly fine for Tracy. He's done that correctly. So Johnny Herbert is now a second behind his teammate Hill, who has started to pull away again. But this just tells us we're in for a thriller later in the Grand Prix, and there's no guarantees that this race is going to be won by a Converse Dallara. It could be won by absolutely anything, in all honesty. Here's Ukyo Katayama running third in the Coloni, as Johnny Herbert slips to 1.1 seconds back from Damon Hill. Here's Zanardi, wheel to wheel with Donnelly, and Donnelly... Oh no, sorry, that's Fangio he's actually battling with. I do apologise, that's Fangio the second, the nephew of the great Argentinian. As Ukyo Katayama runs in third place, trying to get away from Bernard and Giacomelli, with Schumacher, Warwick, Ratzenberger, Brundle, Martini, Winkelhock and Fangio giving chase, as Blundell has another crack at Christian Fittipaldi. Comes through the left-hander, up towards the bus stop chicane. And is this going to be a move from Blundell? He's got to think about it, but he has to back out of it in the end. Oh, and Damon Hill loses it! Damon Hill in the Dallara loses the lead. He spins the car, loses it completely, and will get spun around again. Oh! He's come out in front of Katayama. So Katayama nudges him, and Damon Hill recovers, but he's in third place. So a big moment for the race leader as Damon Hill rejoins. But Katayama hit him now. Has Katayama got any damage? I think he's got away with that, you know, because he just slammed on the brakes at the right moment. So Katayama is okay, as is Damon Hill, but that's the lead gone for Damon. He's down to third place. Katayama in second. Here's Zanardi having a go at Fangio. This could be the most exciting race of the season, the way things are currently going, as Willie T. Ribbs now runs in 15th place, trying to chase back after Martin Donnelly. And Zanardi is trying to find his way past the second of the two Eurobruns. He's already got past Donnelly. He now needs to get past Fangio, and he's making a bid. He doesn't make it work. So he has to back out of it in the end. There's Damon Hill. He has recovered in third position. But sadly, his lead only lasts for 7 laps. And that just shows you that anyone is prone to making these mistakes when the Spa circuit is so tricky. And in these wet conditions, it's even more treacherous than most. But then rain is not unusual here at Spa. It is kind of common. So Irvine having a reasonable run in the lead of his little battle, which is trying to catch up to Fittipaldi. Tracy and Leto are the only ones behind him now. There's Damon Hill, third place. Now behind we've got Bernard and Giacomelli. They're dueling over fourth place. And up the inside, oh, cheeky move there from Willie T. Ribbs, I think that is. Getting past Martin Donnelly. Very cheeky overtake as Giacomelli now duels with Bernard. You've got to be so careful heading into Eau Rouge. So that's Donnelly locking up into La Source. And then obviously they drop down the hill into Eau Rouge and then up the climb to Radillon. But Donnelly is doing an absolutely sensational job in the midfield, despite a couple of mistakes here and there. And that's finally a move from Blundell. He gets through past Ginzani. So Johnny Herbert now leads the Go Bobbert UK Cup races. Giacomelli gets his move on Bernard. He's been building up to it, and now he gets through. So the Italian is up into fourth place past Eric Bernard. And then we've got Michael Schumacher and Paul Warwick chasing down in 6th and 7th. As Katayama in the Coloni is trying to close up any way he can on Johnny Herbert, and he goes wide. Oh, well held by the Japanese. That corner is definitely a tricky one. Reduced grip in the damp and wet conditions as Ratzenberger is battling away with the Minardi. And Brundle has to concede, so Ratzenberger keeps the place. And now Martini in the other Minardi is closing up. But Katayama's trying to get away from Damon Hill, who's piling back on the pressure. Starting to close up on the Japanese driver again. The gap is down to just 2.1 seconds between Hill and Katayama as Brundle and Martini are having a duel in the two Minardis. And the Glenfiddich Minardis just about stay out of trouble there. Is that Hill past Katayama? I think it is. So Hill has got past Katayama, but then I think Damon Hill might be in the pits. Yes, Hill is pitting. That's why. So Damon Hill is coming in for his pit stop. So I did wonder why Hill had moved into second. It's because he's been able to pull alongside Katayama very briefly on the way into the pits. But Katayama got him back again. So Damon Hill is pit lane bound, and this is scheduled. You can see that his fuel gauge is running on empty. And he'll have 15 laps of fuel to the end of the car. Warwick comes into the pits as well. This is the first lap there due to pit. So Hill and Warwick both in together then. And Damon Hill will be wanting to try and make up for the lost time that he had in the race earlier after spinning while leading and handing the lead to Johnny Herbert. Willie T. Ribbs comes into the pits as well. So Hill, Warwick and Ribbs all pitting on this end of the 9th lap this is. It's only a 22-lap race, the Go Bobbert UK Cup, but of course it's all about the first 3 teams across the line. And this has been an absolute thriller so far. That's Bruno Giacomelli overshooting and going off! And he rejoins right in front of Schumacher. Well, that was a little bit cheeky from Giacomelli. So that's something that could well be investigated because Schumacher literally had nowhere to go but into the side of the Lola. And that could have been very nasty indeed. So Giacomelli could well get the book thrown at him for that one as Damon Hill struggles to get back up to speed. And I think we've got Fangio. Oh, more problems. Goodness me. Chaos. Cars going off everywhere. Now, let's see how this unfolded because we've got Warwick in the Porsche chasing after Donnelly. Oh, it was a spin from Fangio. Fangio spun and then rejoined right in front of Warwick. Warwick had nowhere to go. Neither did Donnelly in the Eurobrun. And now also McNish going off. So essentially, that is... Oh, nobody can hold it. Blundell's going off. Fittipaldi's going to be on the scene next. Fangio has caused so many incidents by holding the car in position. So loads of drivers going off. There's about 7 or 8 of them going off there. So Fangio recovers. And Fittipaldi is the last one left. But he's got to wait for the field to go by. So everybody just about getting away with it. But goodness me, that was absolute carnage for a moment. And Bernard has got well clear of Giacomelli. Here comes Ratzenberger having a look at Schumacher. He then thinks better of it, but that's what a reduced grip on the surface does. One car spins, the car is in a difficult position, and everybody goes off trying to avoid him. So now we've got, Ratzenberger and Giacomelli coming into the pits. So Bernard is in, Ratzenberger is in. So Eric Bernard goes into the pits now. Martini is into the pits as well. So scheduled pit stop at the bus stop chicane for Bernard, Martini and Ratzenberger. And still this race has plenty of thrills and spills as drivers are still trying to find some grip and keep the car on the racetrack. Johnny Herbert leads it still. But as you can see, slick tyres on that car, but very reduced grip levels. So you've just got to keep it on the island as Martin Donnelly now heads for the pits. And this is the half distance lap. 11 laps completed out of 22 at the end of this one. In a race that's set to last about an hour, which means that the Grand Prix will be very long as well. Very nearly 2 hours around the circuit. Leto comes into the pits, but he was already down at the back of the field after his earlier spin. Tracy in the pit lane as well in the Porsche after his earlier spin. But it seems as though pretty much everybody's going off at some point in this race. Katayama's gone off, Hill's gone off, Schumacher nearly going off, Giacomelli's had an off. Brundle is now P5, Winkelhock, Hill, Bernard, Zanardi, Ratzenberger is the order. And Bernard has only just managed to get into the race again, just been tucked in behind Damon Hill. So Hill is still not safe here. Oh, and Blundell goes off! Oh, big moment for Blundell. He goes airborne, just about lands the car neat and tidy. But the Lego Acela is trying to get going again. And that's a very difficult place for the car to have gone off. Hopefully he's going to get on without too much incident. Oh, he spins the car again. That's how little grip there is. As Johnny Herbert sets the fastest lap of the race, a 2-minute 3. Come on, Mark, you've got to get this car going. Which he now achieves, but, well, that was close. As Katayama comes in, so too does Giacomelli. So both Ukyo Katayama and Bruno Giacomelli now in the pit lane. So let's see how the Lola goes in terms of pit stops, because Giacomelli is not really in the hunt for victory yet, but he certainly could be as the race goes on. And Martin Brundle in the Minardi comes into the pits as well. So the Lola stops. This needs to be about a 9-second pit stop. So the team can add fuel, they can change tyres. And this is going to be a 9.5. Not bad, but it could have been faster. So Katayama rejoins, and he's in third place. That is still ahead of Damon Hill. So some interesting moments as Michael Schumacher now takes over second place behind Johnny Herbert, but he obviously still has his mandatory pit stop to take. They all have one, and only one. Johnny Herbert's coming in at the end of this lap. Schumacher is as well, so that will address the balance. Zanardi's in the pit. McNish is in the pit. So is Ginzani. Oh, and that's Brundle! Brundle loses it. Can he catch the car when he's hit both barriers? How did his teammate miss him? That is absolutely astonishing. And now Brundle... Oh, look, you can't even spin turn the car very effectively in these greasy conditions. Brundle is really struggling to get the Minardi going again. So this could be very awkward. He's in a dangerous position. He's got to try and keep the car going. But at the same time, he's obviously very mindful of the fact that there are cars approaching. As Damon Hill now runs in P5. So Brundle is out of the race, I'm told. Brundle is out. So let's see if we can pick it up. Oh, Bernard's gone off as well. Bernard is in the middle of the road. Now that is a very precarious position for Eric Bernard to be. So Brundle is out of the race. And Giacomelli's gone off. Goodness me, they're dropping out all over the place. So Giacomelli has gone off the road. Let's watch how he did it. He just overshoots. Again, there's just no grip. The earlier rain making this a very treacherous racetrack at the moment. So Bernard has spun off. Brundle has spun into retirement. And Giacomelli has now gone off the road as well. So all sorts of chaos here at Spa. We're only at the half distance mark. Incredibly, most of the cars are able to keep going. So Herbert comes in. Herbert comes in from the lead of the race. Now that's a significant one, obviously, from the outcome of the race. So there is Johnny Herbert. Now he should retain the lead when he rejoins on track again. But this is all going beautifully for Johnny Herbert. Not so great for the drivers around him making mistakes. As Michael Schumacher now comes into the pits. So Schumacher will come in from P2. But Johnny Herbert is going to exit the pit lane with a lead still very much intact. So Johnny Herbert is going to have this race at a canter. There he goes, out onto the circuit, leads the race, still has plenty of time in hand over Katayama, and Winkelhock comes out. That's Zanardi. Zanardi and Donnelly. Now, they've been locked in a battle all race long. So let's see what happens. Zanardi's gone off by the look of it. Indeed he has. He's just spun the car, drifted it out. And Donnelly in unison going off. So both Zanardi and Donnelly completely together on the same corner, going off the road. Absolutely incredible. So Donnelly recovers. Zanardi is still yet to. But this is cars going off all over the shop. And now Zanardi's car is parked in the middle of the racetrack. He's got to move it, which he does, but he uses too much throttle. Now he spins the car around. Fittipaldi's got to get out of the way. And so Zanardi, look, not too much throttle. You've just got to get it going again. So Zanardi gets back on track. And surely now he can keep going, which he does. But a precarious moment. And now Ghinzani's gone off. So Ghinzani in the Zach Speed has gone off in exactly the same place that we saw Giacomelli going off. And that's a tricky position to be because, again, that's right at the bottom of the hill. Here's Johnny Herbert, the race leader. He goes by no problem. So Johnny Herbert goes through past Ghinzani. But now the Italian's got to try and get back on the road. As Juan Fangio II comes into the pits. But this is going to be an absolute lottery. Because so many drivers are falling off the road. I think Schumacher's had a moment, has he? Oh, Ratzenberger slowing. Ratzenberger slowing. Gearbox failure. Gearbox failure in the Reynard. What a shame, because Ratzenberger was having a terrific race here at Spa. And I'm really hoping that someone picks him up for 1991, because he's really showing his credit here. A great young driver, really starting to move his way through the ranks. And I'm afraid on this occasion, the 28-year-old is out of luck. And that's Warwick pulling off. Oh, Warwick's had a spin. I do apologise. He's gone off the road, right in the path of Winkelhock. And so now Warwick is trying to get the car back on the road again. Bernard goes through. Ratzenberger, as we know, has obviously pulled off the racetrack to retire. But Warwick is trying to get his Porsche back on the road and in the points. He's got to be careful in how he recovers. Oh, he doesn't want to do that to... Oof. Paul. That could have been so dangerous. He manages to spin the car back onto the grass. But in the wet conditions here at Spa, cars are going off everywhere. At least we had some relative grip at the Hungaroring, but it's really a struggle here. And the cars are desperately trying to get going. Warwick is trying to get going again, as you can see, and the Life is having to take avoiding action. Careful on the wheel spin, Paul, but that's cost Porsche any chance of a points finish in Paul Warwick. So, big problem there. Now, what's happened to Schumacher? Oh, Herbert's in trouble. Herbert's got an engine problem. That's a disaster for Johnny Herbert. The Dallara was leading by 13 seconds. And now the victory has gone for Johnny Herbert and the Converse Dallara team. What a shame. Johnny Herbert leading on lap 14 of 22. And the Dallara goes no further. So, Johnny Herbert is out of the GoBobby.UK Cup. From the lead, his teammate goes into second place, so Herbert does still have a good chance of heading into the Grand Prix later, as long as Damon Hill stays in the top three. But for Johnny Herbert, that's a brilliant victory, well and truly robbed. So now it's Ukyo Katayama, the Japanese driver, that takes over the lead in the Coloni, ahead of Damon Hill in the second Converse Dallara, and Michael Schumacher in the Reynard. Now, if he can hang on to third place, then that's going to be the first time in the GoBobby.UK Cup and the 1990 season that Michael Schumacher and Reynard will have qualified for a Grand Prix start. So no pressure on Schumacher. He will feel the heat a little bit, but he is learning this circuit for the first time at Spa. He's never been here before. So this is obviously going to be a very interesting scenario for Schumacher to grasp, but we'll have to see how he goes. There's Paul Warwick, and he'll work his way up to 13th place as he passes the scene of Johnny Herbert's stricken car, and that's Damon Hill! Damon Hill's gone again! And it's the same corner. It's catching everybody out. Again, he's just dropped the back end. No grip. The wet conditions catch him out for the second time. And now he's just trying to get the car back in the straight line again. So once more, Damon Hill spins. Now he can get going again. But Martini is going to go through. There's no problem about that for the Minardi. So he gets through. And he's got to spin turn the car before Winkelhock comes around. But that's not going to happen either. Winkelhock goes through. What a race this is for Joe Winkelhock. He's now in 4th position in the Zach Speed when that car didn't look like it had a prayer of qualifying. But Joe Winkelhock has just kept the car on the racetrack. Damon Hill is trying to return to it. But I'm afraid for Team Boss Emma Featherstone, the cars that were on the front row of the grid that dominated in qualifying were the fastest thing around Spa. And with Herbert having a blown engine from the lead and Hill going off, I'm afraid there's no chance now of Dallara qualifying unless more shenanigans happen in front of Damon Hill. Damon is just trying to get that car going again. But the lack of grip here at Spa really is punishing the drivers. So Damon Hill just trying to get that car. He's kept the engine running. You can hear it there. So Damon Hill is just trying to get this car going again. But I think he's well and truly firmly placed in that gravel trap. It's not going to be easy to get him out again. He drops behind Irvine, behind Blundell. He's lost over a minute and a half now. And so Damon Hill really struggling to get this car back on the straight and narrow on lap 15 of 22. It's the worst lap for the Converse Dallara team. Johnny Herbert's engine goes, and then Damon Hill goes back off into the gravel trap. And Fangio's gone off. Fangio's gone off as well now. He's had an incident there with JJ Leto, so Leto has had a problem. And look, Fangio's just lost the back end of the car on the exit of the bus stop chicane. A very strange moment for Fangio. But Leto goes back into the pit lane to repair his car at the expense of Fangio. Now here's Damon Hill trying to get going again. And I think that's pretty much done and dusted. In fact, Okio Katayama has just lapped him. So the man he was trying to catch to take the lead of the race has now just lapped him. Fangio's still trying to get going again, but there's cars all over the shop trying not to have too many problems with Fangio, who does get going. Damon Hill now is trying to spin turn the car to go the right way, and he's just ended up on the gravel again. What an embarrassing scenario for Damon Hill and the Converse Dallara team. They may as well park it up now, because there's no way they're going to come back from that. A lap down is the worst place to be in the Go Bobbert UK Cup, but Damon Hill wants to at least get the car back to the pits if he can. But the victory is gone, and I'm afraid it's a real shame for Damon Hill as Michael Schumacher continues in second place in the Reynard. That's where he finished last time. Blundell overshooting. Oh, Mark. He just about catches the Lego Acela before he goes off the road, but everybody's having a real trouble with this circuit today. So Katayama leads in the Coloni. They're looking to qualify. Schumacher second in the Reynard. They're looking to qualify. And Martini in the Minardi in third place. They're looking to qualify. So the Belgian Grand Prix at Spa in very tricky and wet conditions here. There's going to be a lot of drivers picking up points that wouldn't normally. Just to give you a rundown, Katayama is leading in the Coloni. Second is Schumacher in the Reynard. Third is Martini's Minardi. Fourth is Joe Winkelhock in the Zaxby. Good to see him up the front again. Eric Bernard is fifth in the Monteverde. Sixth is Willie T. Ribbs in the Real. Seventh now is Alan McNish in the Life. He's done well to keep the car on the road. Martin Donnelly in the Eurobrun is in eighth. Ninth is Christian Fittipaldi in the second Life, so they're going to get some points today for a change. And in 10th place, it is Paul Warwick in the Porsche, who's got that car back into the points. And we're watching the battle behind Paul Tracy. That's Leto and Giacomelli, two drivers who were the first to go off. And we're watching Schumacher and Martini just trying to handle their cars around the Spa circuit. Schumacher has well and truly nailed it in most places, and McNish loses 7th. He goes off the road. Oh, I was talking up Alan McNish. He was doing a great job. And then unfortunately, he's just spun on the way into Les Combes. He should have enough time to get back on in 8th place in front of Fittipaldi. But he's the circuit's so slippery there. Just trying to get the car going again is a bit of an effort. Oh, and Zanardi's gone around. Now, let's see what happened to Zanardi, because this looks like it's been an awkward one for the Italian. So Zanardi's already had his moment. He's come down to the pits. Oops! Caught the curb. That's what happened. So he's caught the curb and spun it off. And now he's trying to spin turn the car so he can bring it back into the pits, essentially, to repair the car. But there are only 19 of the cars that started this race still left in it as Zanardi makes his way back to the pits. Katayama goes into lap 17 out of 22. Listen to the tyres as Damon Hill is trying to get grip. Such a difficult circuit if things are going wrong. And there is Willie T. Ribbs battling with Piercarlo Ginzani, who is a lap down. And in fact, Damon Hill is trying to catch him for 18th place. Winkelhock still going relatively well in 4th position with 6 laps to go. But there are still no guarantees. This circuit is spitting out cars like pips out of an apple. And Katayama is really doing his best to hold on to it as Giacomelli battles with Tracy. Tries to make the move to go through. But as I said before, this is the worst conditions for a Grand Prix car. It's not wet, it's not dry, it's that fine line in between. And here at Spa, it really is a tough circuit anyway, so a little bit of grease on the circuit, a little bit of a damp patch here and there. We're going to have an absolutely monumental Grand Prix later, that is for sure. As Katayama continues out in front with just 6 laps remaining in the Go Bobbit at UK Cup pre-qualifying race, and Winkelhock loses the back end. That's 4th position gone for the Zach Speed. Through goes Bernard. Winkelhock recovers, but he's down to 5th place now in front of Willie T. Ribbs. That's still looking like a good finish for the Zach Speed. But that's an embarrassing moment for Joe Winkelhock as he loses the car. So easy to do here at Spa in these conditions. Katayama, Schumacher, Martini, Bernard, Winkelhock, Ribbs, Donnelly, McNish, Warwick and Fittipaldi now. So Fittipaldi has lost the place to Paul Warwick in the Porsche. But it's such a long lap here that we've still got 15 cars on the leading lap. 16th place is Fangio. Make that 16 cars on the leading lap. There's Eddie Irvine. He's managed to get himself up to 11th place after all of this. So despite his early problems, he's now in 11th and is only a few seconds down the road from Christian Fittipaldi. So Irvine could still put the Real in the points today. That's why you keep going in these conditions, because you never know what's going to happen next. Here's Schumacher. 5 laps from the end, taking it very cautiously into turn 1. You just got to look after the car. There's Donnelly, 7th place. The tyres squeal underneath him, but so far Donnelly is keeping it on the straight and narrow. There's Martini, ever dependable, ever reliable in the Minardi. And for team boss Michael Gillespie, that's why he's kept him on for 91. Because Martini is a safe pair of hands. Here's Giacomelli on the run, the inside of Tracy. Bernard nearly loses it at La Source. Catches the car again. And Tracy remains in front of Giacomelli. There's Schumacher through Les Combes. He's one of the few drivers who's not gone off there at any point today. Schumacher just keeping it together. 10 seconds behind Katayama with 5 laps to go. And Schumacher just keeping it nice and rhythmic. Donnelly locks up at La Source. He can catch that though. There's runoff. And Katayama loses it! The race leader, Katayama's gone off. Well, that's exactly what I meant when I said that you don't know what's happening next. You have no idea. You just got to keep the faith. And Michael Schumacher goes past the Japanese into the lead at Spa-Francorchamps. So now Ukyo Katayama in the Coloni is desperately trying to get going again because Martini and Bernard are closing up. And Martini's gone through. Here's Eric Bernard in the Monteverdi. And that's going to elevate him into 3rd position. Past Ukyo Katayama, here he comes. Look on the right, there should be a Coloni in the gravel. There it is. So Bernard is through and into 3rd position. Monteverdi look like they're going to qualify for the Belgian Grand Prix after all. I did say it was going to need some shenanigans up front. And fortunately for him, that's exactly what he got. But I'm afraid Ukyo Katayama has binned it from the lead. Just the same way Damon Hill did earlier. He manages to get going again. He's in 6th position, about to be taken by Donnelly. Donnelly closes right up on him. Decides not to make the overtake. But Donnelly is now trying to make his way through. Oh, poor Tracy sounded like he had a little bit of an issue with the gearbox there. Trying to find a gear into Les Combes, or just trying to slow the car down a little bit for the braking zone perhaps. But so far so good for young Michael Schumacher, who has signed for Ferrari of all teams for 1991. They saw something in this young German star who's dovetailed his Reynard commitments with the Group C sports car program for Sauber Mercedes-Benz. And he's having a terrific season, but in Formula 1 is where he really wants to make it count. Here's Martini, 2nd place in the Minardi. Again, ever dependable, ever reliable. And he just keeps it together. 4 laps remaining here at Spa. There's Michael Schumacher in the Reynard, leading the way. They have yet to qualify for a Grand Prix. Martini nearly going off in the Minardi. Everybody at Reynard is keeping their fingers crossed. They were 2nd at the Birmingham Super Prix. That would effectively have been the first time they had qualified for a Formula 1 race. And Schumacher's been in this position before. And the youth and exuberance of this young German has got the better of him. But maybe here at Spa-Francorchamps, a circuit which is one of the toughest in the world, on which Schumacher is, by the way, making his competitive debut in Formula 1. This is a big opportunity for the German. He can't afford to throw this one away. And there's Eric Bernard, running a great race in 3rd, in front of Joe Winkelhock. Now, Blundell is having a crack at Irvine. So the Lego Acela clearly handling Spa better than the Real because Blundell has caught him up very rapidly. And Mark Blundell, who was third at Birmingham, really wants to make his way forward. Here's Schumacher in the Reynard. He comes through at the end of the lap. 3 laps to go. Everybody at Reynard will be keeping their fingers firmly crossed. This has been a tough season for the Reynard team. They've had an awful lot of strength and support, but it's been difficult to get them into a Grand Prix. Team boss Will Knight has made no bones about the fact that he's going to be moving to Ligier next year as their team boss. Whoops, that's Juan Fangio. He catches it, thank goodness. But the Eurobrun just drifting ever so slowly off the course. But to return to Schumacher, he has yet to qualify for a Grand Prix this year. They've had all sorts of difficulties and problems. Maybe this is the moment, because only 2 teams so far this year have failed to qualify for a Grand Prix. They are AGS, of which both drivers crashed out earlier on in the race, within the first 4 laps, I'm afraid. And the Reynard team, which has had pace and speed, but no luck. And maybe here at Spa, their moment has come. Here's Eric Bernard. 3rd position, in front of Joe Winkelhock and Willie T. Ribbs. Damon Hill still pounding around. Oh, Damon. Up the hill at Radillon is a very scary place to go off. We saw Brundle go off there earlier and crash out of the race. And we saw Leto dropping down the order in his spin. But Damon is still motoring on. This is such a tough mission to keep this car on the road. But Michael Schumacher is delivering in the Cadbury's Reynard. And this is going to help them big time in terms of their status on the field. They're the team that everybody wants to qualify for a Grand Prix because they haven't managed to yet. Likewise with AGS. They will have to wait until Monza for a chance to make it happen. But here at Spa-Francorchamps, this very talented, very highly reputed, very strong German, Michael Schumacher, just 21 years of age, is coming of age here at Spa-Francorchamps and has a real chance to showcase to everybody why he should be at Ferrari next year. Here's Giacomelli, wheel to wheel with Paul Tracy into Les Combes. And Giacomelli's going to make it, but are they going to stay on the road? Because that's a very tricky corner. They do indeed, as Martini in the Minardi goes into lap 21 of 22. 2 laps remaining here at Spa. And this is... Oh, Fangio! This time he goes off properly at that corner. And yet, somehow, he again manages to save it. So, Fangio, the second, manages to catch the car despite the off. Oh, that's Zanardi locking up. And we see the big chasm between Zanardi and Fangio in terms of track position. Now, that's Zanardi struggling to fend off from Eric Bernard, who's trying to lap him. So, Bernard laps him on the way down Eau Rouge. And then he climbs through the right-hander up Radillon. This is an absolutely thrilling run. Here's Winkelhock, 4th position in the Zach speed, and he's gone off again. That's the 2nd time he's binned it, but what a catch. He's caught it beautifully. My goodness, Joe Winkelhock, that must have been so scary on board. Let's ride with him. Catches the car, nudges the back bumper, and yet the car comes back. Dallara of Damon Hill unlapping himself. But what a save from Joe Winkelhock. He's managed to bring it back. But now the problem is he's got a very fast-moving Willie T. Ribbs who's just gone by into P4. The Real is now 4th. And JJ Leto is out. What's happened to JJ Leto? Gearbox failure in the Monteverdi. Now, if Bernard stays in 3rd place, JJ Leto will start the Belgian Grand Prix whatever happens. Because Bernard just needs to keep it in 3rd. But it's a tough race for JJ Leto. And he will not stay, I'm afraid, in the running of this one. Although he will be classified as a finisher because he did complete enough laps to be. But it's all about Michael Schumacher and the Reynard up front. Paul Warwick in the Porsche. Holding it. Does he? Oh, no. He loses the back end of the car through Radillon. Now he's got to keep it going again to get the Porsche in the points. Christian Fittipaldi is behind him. Not anymore. Fittipaldi goes through. And Warwick gets the car back again, but what about Irvine and Blundell? Surely they're going to sweep by. They do indeed. So first Irvine and then Blundell both pass the Porsche, which loses points on the last lap. Giacomelli is going by as well. Michael Schumacher starts the final lap in the Reynard. But I think those final few points-paying positions are still going to go right to the wire because you've got the likes of Fittipaldi, Irvine, Blundell, Giacomelli, Warwick and Tracy all very close together. And all it takes is one of them to go off and the rest of them have a chance to move forward. But here is the Reynard on the last lap. Will Knight and the whole team have their fingers, their arms, their legs, their shoulders crossed, everything in the pit lane. Is this going to be the moment that Reynard finally gets into a Grand Prix in 1991? Schumacher just tiptoeing his way through Les Combes. He's got 15 seconds on Martini. He doesn't even have to win the race. But I think Schumacher wants to prove it. I think people might have suggested, why on earth have Ferrari gone for this man who makes mistakes, who gets things wrong? But Schumacher wants to prove that he is worthy of the seat. Here's Pierluigi Martini, 16 seconds back now from Schumacher, who really is opening up the taps. Here's Irvine, 10th place on Blundell, side by side, ahead of Giacomelli and the two Porsches. So that final points-paying position is right there for the taking. And Schumacher comes into the final few corners of the lap. He's just got to keep it on the straight and narrow. So many drivers have gone off today. So many have had big moments, have had silly mistakes, have had all sorts of overdriving. But this man has not. Michael Schumacher in the Cadbury's Reynard has kept it so solid and so smooth throughout this race. And he is 15 seconds clear of Martini. This is Blundell having another crack at Irvine down to Eau Rouge. To the inside line, he has to bail out of it. But it's all about the man who's crossing the line in the lead. Michael Schumacher comes out of the final turn and he wins at Spa-Francorchamps in the Go Bob It at UK Cup. Michael Schumacher and Reynard will finally contest the Grand Prix in 1990 as Pierluigi Martini comes through in second position and the Minardi will once more start a Grand Prix. And Eric Bernard in the Monteverdi will come through in third. After a thrilling comeback from Eric Bernard after a difficult qualifying position. But here at Spa, as long as you drive well, you can really make it happen. Out of the final turn, and Bernard, a big advert to Monteverdi. He wants to keep his job in 1991. It's Ribs and Winkelhock in the top 5 from Katayama, who will be ruining the moment he threw away victory. But for once, the man who's made mistakes all season didn't make a single mistake in the final hour. And Irvine does come home for the final point in the Real, so a good drive and a good comeback for him. But for Michael Schumacher, it's a big moment. It's a coming-of-age moment for the Reynard. And he's just got fumes. That's why he's cruising around at 40 miles an hour. But Michael Schumacher, absolutely incredible drive from him today. A wonderful, wonderful moment for the Reynard as he comes through. Oh, Bernard has actually stopped on the slowing down lap. Bernard has stopped in the Monteverdi. Now, that's controversial. Now, for 1991, that kind of thing could actually become a bit of an issue for the long-term longevity of the race, but it's not a problem in 1990. There is going to be scrutineering at the end of Go Bob It at UK Cup races, of course, in 1991. Oh, Schumacher and Martini have both pulled off as well. So they are lucky. They just had enough fuel to get to the end of the race there. As Zanardi comes through in 16th place, still cruising round, but Schumacher, Martini and Bernard all finish, all qualify for the Grand Prix, and then all pull off out of fuel. Schumacher, Martini, Bernard and Willie T. Ribbs from Joe Winkelhock and Ukyo Katayama, Martin Donnelly and Alan McNish in the life. 8 different teams in the top 8 places. Christian Fittipaldi is 9th and Bruno Giacomelli in the Lola is actually classified as 10th in the end. He did cross the line ahead of Eddie Irvine, we're told. So Mark Blundell is 12th ahead of Warwick and Tracy. And then obviously behind them you have Juan Fangio II, who had more spins than a Wurlitzer. Alessandro Zanardi and Damon Hill fell a lap behind after their incidents. Ginzani in 18th and Leto retired, but 3 laps from the end. Then Johnny Herbert with the engine failure, Ratzenberger with the gearbox, but he'll still start the Grand Prix, as will Martin Brundle in the Minardi. Suzuki's Lola retired, Gasho in the Coloni crashed out, as did both the AGS cars of Guerrero and Tarquini. Fastest lap of the race, Johnny Herbert in the Dallara, just a whisker ahead of his teammate Damon Hill. But that's no consolation as far as they are concerned. A dramatic race, but it is Reynard, Minardi, and of course Monteverdi that will go through to the Belgian Grand Prix. That is the next race up on the bill, and it's going to be an absolute thriller. Tricky conditions here at Spa-Francorchamps. A great race in the offing. What will happen? Well, you'll have to tune in to find out.